What is good, everybody? Welcome back to another episode brought to you by the League FFB. Today, we're here, as we are every Monday morning, to talk about what happened in Week 5 of the NFL season. I guess just to recap the last week, not always talking about Week 5. Excuse the cat tail. She's being a bother at the moment. It is what it is. I think she just wants some food. It drops here in about 30 minutes. But that being said, folks, we're not here to talk about the damn cat, the damn pet. We're here to talk about some fantasy football. So let's hop into these games. We got some games to cover. We did have some teams on bye, so less games than normal. But let's pull up the screen share. As you guys can see, we're going to be kicking it off with the Jets and the Minnesota Vikings. The Minnesota Vikings win this one in London, international game here in this week's matchup. This game was not great for the most part. Obviously, you like to see the Vikings come in. You like to see them win. If you're a fan of them like I am, if you're the Jets, maybe not so much. But this was just pretty sloppy, especially in the second half. The second half got a little bit it wasn't that great of a game. It wasn't very impressive, very defensive minded. Obviously, the defense is what ended up winning this game here for the Vikings with the interception by Stephon Gilmore there at the end, interceptions from Cam Bynum, an interception from Andrew Van Ginkel that went for a touchdown. So overall, decent outing, I guess, in this one, but just not super impressive. Let's talk about Minnesota first, though, because for fantasy football purposes, we had a couple of guys perform at a decent level. I would say Sam Darnold, 14 for 31, 179, no touchdowns, an interception. That obviously is not what you want to see. You want to see Sam Darnold go out there and throw some touchdowns. He got banged up, took a rib injury as well, but it only got him out for one play. The one play that he did go sit, Nick Mullins comes in and throws a 24-yard pass to Aaron Jones, which was a hell of a catch. Now, any updates on Aaron Jones? I know we have our bye, but Aaron Jones, I haven't heard anything yet. It sounds like he's going to get an MRI and see what's going on. Sounds like it could be hip/hamstring. I worry that it's a little bit more hamstring. If it's more hamstring, we could be potentially looking at Ty Chandler starting for the team in Week 7. But obviously, we have to wait till what we see out of the MRI. So that is some big news out of Minnesota is the Aaron Jones injury. He did not finish the game. Ty Chandler goes 14 carries for 30 yards, and CJ Ham is the one who scores the touchdown. So just nobody really from Minnesota gives you what you needed. Jefferson, bad game from Justin Jefferson, still goes out with 6 receptions, 92 yards on 14 targets. Jordan Addison, 3 for 36. Johnny Munt, yada, yada, yada. It's nice to see that this team is going to be going on to a bye, 5-0. That's not the performance that you want to see going into the bye week, but you know what? You can't complain about going into the bye undefeated. Sounds like TJ Hawkinson will be back in the lineup when they come out of the bye week, so getting another weapon there for Sam Darnold, week for him to get a little bit healthier. He just couldn't make the throws after taking that rib injury. It just looked like he just didn't have the torque to make those throws. So, nothing spectacular out of Minnesota, unfortunately. Justin Jefferson, he salvaged his day with the yardage and the receptions. In a PPR league, he still gave you like 14, 15 points. So, for New York, Aaron Rodgers, he goes 29 for 54. You do not want to see, this is multiple times now this year where we've seen Aaron Rodgers throwing 50-plus passes. You don't want to see that. I don't want to see Aaron Rodgers throw 50-plus passes. He went for 244, 2 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions. Breece Hall getting 9 carries for 23 yards. It's just inexcusable. It's very, very poor use of probably the best weapon on your offense. Maybe outside of Garrett Wilson, there's a conversation about Garrett Wilson maybe being the best option, but so far their identity when they've been winning games has been by establishing the run with Breece Hall and using Breece Hall in the receiving game, and they just didn't do that this week. So if you had Breece Hall in fantasy, not a great day from him, but Garrett Wilson, we said that the big day was going to come eventually. It showed up. Garrett Wilson, 13 receptions for 101 yards on 22 targets. He scores a touchdown as well. That's going to be a big day for Garrett Wilson. Conklin, the second leading receiver, Alan Lazard, Mike Williams, these guys all kind of follow suit. It's going to be interesting to see what happens for the New York Jets over the next couple of days, maybe. As we know, the Davante Adams saga is still kind of trying to write its own story at the moment. Is Adams going to reunite with Aaron Rodgers here in the New York Jets. They're 2-3. Does it make sense for them to give up, future draft capital to go do that? I don't know. We've heard about the Saints. We've heard about some other teams as well. I'm just keeping an eye on that one. But big takeaways from this one is it looks like Minnesota is going to happily accept a bye week going into this week and get some rest, get a little bit healthier. Aaron Jones, we're going to be waiting on the MRI to see what happens. But Garrett Wilson, hopefully you bought low. I don't know if this is always going to be the norm, but hopefully you bought low. And Breece Hall, I think now we're going to see an open window for us to maybe buy Breece Hall low. And Anthony says London games always have sluggish offenses, in my opinion. Yeah, I agree. I always think the international games in general have sluggish offenses. They have kind of sloppy play, not great field conditions. Even at times, I think just the time change of going into another continent to play a game, it just can mess with people. There was Will Reichard, the kicker for the Vikings. His girlfriend, his wife, whoever it is, she posted a Snapchat or an Instagram story of him or something, and it was like, the time change has been kicking our ass, but he still went out and did what he had to do. So that time change is for real, man. So we'll see what happens. But let's move on to the next game here. Probably one of the longest NFL Sundays I've ever watched. It was insane because you have the London game in the morning, and then you also have the delay in the Sunday night game as well. Jake, the Minnesota sports fan, says also for bye week purposes, would Will Reichard be a solid pickup for a kicker? Potentially, if you need one. What are you paying for Brian Thomas in Dynasty? Owner wants an early 25 first, and I don't exactly think that's a bad offer. I'm okay giving a early 25 first, to be honest, to go get a guy like Brian Thomas Jr. But let's move on to this Panthers-Bears. The Panthers-Bears game. Caleb Williams looked good. He looked good, man. They win this one 36-10. Andy Dalton was not able to really get anything going for the most part. We even saw some Bryce Young in this game. Goes 4 for 7 there. But let's talk about the Bears first. Caleb, 20 for 29, 300 yards, 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, only 1 sack. That's a damn good day from Caleb Williams, folks. If you've been waiting for Caleb Williams to look the part, he looked the part in this game. That's a very, very good quarterback play from a guy like Caleb Williams, especially being so young right now in his career. Rushing for Chicago, DeAndre Swift goes 21 carries, 73 yards, and a touchdown. Also, Roschon Johnson gets 10 carries, 25 yards, and 2 touchdowns. It kind of looks like it's developing for Chicago where Roschon Johnson is turning into the goal line back. And that's also partly DeAndre Swift's fault. It's kind of his problem because he just absolutely loves getting tackled at the one. It's just he did it with Jalen Hurts. He did it now, and Roschon Johnson is taking it. He was doing that in Detroit as well. DeAndre Swift is allergic to breaking off that long pass and getting into the end zone. But whatever. He still had a good day. Solid for fantasy football. Josiah says, "Go Pack, go." Sketchy one for y'all. Anthony says, "Pump the brakes. It was against Carolina. My team, they're a dumpster fire organization." Hey, look, man, it was good quarterback play nonetheless. You'll take him when you see him. He's stacked multiple weeks on top of each other now, where he's looked very solid. Let's talk about the receiving for Chicago, though. DJ Moore leads the way, 5 for 105 and 2 touchdowns in a quote-unquote revenge game for DJ Moore. Had a good day there. You love to see that one. Cole Kmet, 3 for 57. DeAndre Swift, 2 for 47. I like to see him involved in the receiving game. And then Rome Odunze, 5 for 40. Keenan, 3 for 33. And Gerald Everett involved as well. But nobody else really getting involved, I think, in the end zone department other than the running backs and DJ Moore. But overall, a great day from the Bears. They looked solid. And just reminded the Carolina Panthers one more time, hey, you traded us all of this stuff for Bryce Young, and we drafted Caleb Williams. Oh, and this is what he looks like when he plays against your team. So I just thought it was kind of funny. Rub salt in the wound for Carolina. Meanwhile, Bryce Young sitting on the bench. But 18 for 28, 0 touchdowns and an interception for Andy Dalton. Hopefully we didn't start him in fantasy football. Bryce Young, like I said, he comes in. First play, he throws decently long ball. It looked pretty decent, but whatever. Carolina rushing. Chuba Hubbard goes 13 for 97 and a touchdown. Everybody else was really non-existent. Even Miles Sanders Just nobody else getting carries other than Chuba Hubbard. It's going to be interesting and exciting to see Jonathan Brooks get into this lineup, because if Jonathan Brooks gets into this lineup and starts looking good, I think he's way more talented than a guy like Chuba Hubbard, and if that's the case, he should put up some pretty good fantasy football numbers down the stretch. Now, receiving-wise, Anthony said it, biggest disappointment was Deontay Johnson this week, and I'd have to agree. It's not like the matchup didn't tell us that it was going to be tough in the first place, because going up against Jalen Johnson is always tough. Jalen Coker leads the way. He goes 4 for 68. Mingo 2 for 37, Miles Sanders 2 for 27, Deontay 3 for 23. Really nothing here. Like I said, there was just not a lot that Carolina did offensively that was exciting. Whatever. If you had a Carolina Panther, if it wasn't, sorry, my nose is super itchy. If it wasn't Chuba Hubbard, it doesn't really matter. Anthony says Jalen Coker's stat line intriguing against the Bears secondary. Could be. He's still just a very, very deep dynasty flyer at that. Brooks is going to be incredible or end up splitting with Chuba at this point. I don't know which. I don't know. I hope he's going to be really good, because I have him in some places. But let's move on to this next game here. Our next game is going to be the Ravens and the Bengals. And holy hell, this was a game, folks. This was a damn game. Let's just say if you had either of these quarterbacks, or you had a few of these players on these offenses, you probably have a good chance at winning the week going into Monday night, or you have already won the week going into Monday night, because 41-38 is the final score. They go to overtime. Baltimore comes away with this one. They win this game, and Lamar freaking Jackson puts out so far one of the best highlights of the year with a stiff arm while trying to get sacked, and then he comes back across his body and throws a touchdown to Isaiah Likely. He goes 26 for 42, 348 yards and 4 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, 1 sack. That is it. Like I said, very good day. He finished, I want to say he finished as QB1 on the week right now, only maybe ahead of Joe Burrow. But actually, Kirk Cousins also had a really damn good week as well, so they would be up there. Baltimore rushing, Derrick Henry goes 15 for 92 and a touchdown. Lamar Jackson, he goes 12 for 55 on the ground as well. Justice Hill involved, but nothing crazy. And then receiving-wise, Zay Flowers leads the way. Thank you. Happy to have him show up, for once. 7 for 111 and a touchdown or 0 touchdowns on 12 targets. The touchdown goes to Charlie Kohler and Rashad Bateman. So you probably didn't start either of those guys in either of your fantasy leagues or any of your fantasy leagues. But if you picked up Isaiah Likely, 4 weeks ago, showed up. He showed up again. There you go. 2 touchdowns for you in your fantasy leagues. Now for Cincinnati, this is where you probably got most of your fantasy football points if you were playing Jamar Chase, because, look, in our Idiot League Mates, a league that I play in with the BDGE boys, I was playing against Gut this week. Gut had Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase on his fantasy football team. Yeah, I played against Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. 30 for 39, 392, 5 touchdowns, and an interception for Burrow. Chase Brown leads the way. Scary if Chase Brown is leading the way in carries, because I did mention in this last week's episode of our must-sit players that I was nervous about Zach Moss. And Zach Moss, this is why I was nervous. This type of shit can't happen if you got Zach Moss. But Chase Brown, he's taken over this backfield a little bit more and more each and every week. Neither of them had great fantasy days, though. Let's just be honest. In the air receiving, this is what I'm talking about. Jamar Chase goes 10 for 193 and 2 touchdowns. And, you think that would be a bad day for everybody else? No, T. Higgins also scores 2 touchdowns as well on 9 catches for 83 yards. These dudes went off. Chase Brown catches the touchdown on a short pass there. But that being said, man, look, if you had Jamar Chase, you had T. Higgins, you had Lamar Jackson, you had Derrick Henry, Joe Burrow. If you had players from these games, they scored a lot of points. It's going to be interesting to see what happens, though, moving forward, because even though Cincinnati seems like they've kind of gotten back into a rhythm, they were in this game with Baltimore. They won their game last week against Carolina. They are still 1-4. It's a 1-4 football team. They're 0-3 at home still. Like, we don't necessarily believe that this is a team that's going to win their division. I'm nervous that this is a team that's probably not going to make the playoffs. And one thing that I'm going to be keeping an eye on moving forward is that if they're not competitive, are they going to give T. Higgins a long-term contract extension? We don't think so. They didn't do it this last offseason. So is T. Higgins potentially going to become a trade candidate down the line this season? Potentially could be, but we'll see. We'll see what happens, man. But these teams played really well for us, and we had players that played really well. So let's move on to the next game here. We want to go to, well, we don't want to go. This game was horrible. I watched way too much of it than I probably should have. But we got the Miami Dolphins and the New England Patriots 15-10. Ugly, ugly, ugly. Tyler Huntley, 18 for 31, 0 touchdowns and interception. Jalen Wright and Raheem Mostert, 13 and 19 carries respectively, 80 yards each. No touchdowns for them. It was actually Alec Ingold that vultures the touchdown in this one. Devon Achane, 3 for 18. He leaves the game early with a concussion. This is probably not great for him. But that said, I think they do have the bye next week, so we don't have to worry too much about that. He does get the extra week off. But if you played Devon Achane this week, he left early with the concussion, and then you basically got goosed at the position. I mean, you only got, 3 for 18. It wasn't anything. So, unfortunate there. Receiving-wise, Tyreek Hill had an okay day, 6 for 69. I think when you look at what, it has been with Tyler Huntley and Skylar Thompson's of the worlds being the quarterback, this is enough. His ceiling is very capped with these guys, but 6 for 69, your PPR league, we're talking about like 12, 13 points. I'll take it if you were bold enough to play Tyreek Hill. I was actually probably leaning towards benching him this week, and he actually performed okay enough. Exceeded my expectations. Jonnu Smith, 5 for 62. Jalen Waddle, 4 for 46, and then Mostert involved in the receiving game as well. Look, there's not a lot of offense to talk about, and there's not a lot of fantasy-relevant guys in this game to talk about, so it is what it is. Let's talk about New England, though, very briefly. Jacoby Brissett, he goes 18 for 34, 160. They're talking about today, the QB change could be coming. It could be Drake May here very soon. If it is Drake May, I feel a little bit better about the players in this offense just because he has more upside. He can do more than a guy like Jacoby Brissett can. It may get ugly at times. It may get sloppy, but he at least has a higher ceiling than what Jacoby Brissett has given us for this team. You got Ramondre Stevenson, who was benched or lost his starting job. Antonio Gibson got the honorary first carry where it was like he's the starter, and then it was Ramondre Stevenson the rest of the way for the most part. 12 for 89, a touchdown. Gibson goes 6 for 52. Stevenson left the game momentarily with a knee injury in this one, but it didn't seem like it was really anything that affected him too much. He came back in. They said it's not going to affect the availability moving forward. At least that's not what they think, so he should be good to go. Demario Douglas leads the way, 6 for 59 on 9 targets. Keyshawn Butte, Hunter Henry, Jalen Polk, blah, 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 blah. Jalen Polk also looks like he caught a touchdown at the end. They said it wasn't a touchdown. It looked like a touchdown to me. I thought that they won that game. But I digress. I'm not an NFL referee. They say it wasn't a touchdown, so I guess it wasn't a touchdown. That's at least what it says on the box score. But it looked like a touchdown to me. I ain't gonna lie to you. Anthony says trade Higgins to Buffalo. I would absolutely love that for T. Higgins and for Josh Allen. But let's move on to the next game here. The next one in our queue will be the Browns and the Commanders. And you want to talk about ugly football, we could talk about the Cleveland Browns all day long. That is the definition of some ugly football. They lose this one 13-34. They are 1-4 on the year right now. Washington is 4-1. Jaden Daniels, not the day that he's been having as of lately, but still, they win this game pretty easily. He goes 14 for 25, 238, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. On the ground, he goes 11 for 82, so still gives you the fantasy football performance with the rushing on the ground. That is the Jaden Daniels experience. Outside of him, Brian Robinson only goes 7 for 18, but he gets into the end zone twice. So even though he was averaging 2.6 a carry, there you go. He gets into the end zone twice, so he saves his day. Austin Eckler leads the way, 6 for 67. Had a long of 50, so it's kind of skewed when you look at the average there. But everybody else, Jeremy McNichols gets into the end zone, whatever. They're running the football. Washington's receiving, McLaurin, another, day where he's catching a long touchdown. Early in the year, the worry about Terry McLaurin was, hey, they're throwing a lot of stuff towards the sideline. It's not deep downfield. This has been a very shallow offense. And then over the last 3 weeks, it's consistently big play, Terry McLaurin. Long ball, Terry McLaurin. Long touchdown, Terry McLaurin. That's kind of how it's been going. So McLaurin, I think the first 2-3 weeks of football where we were really worried about what the offense looked like as far as how it would correlate to fantasy football production, I think we've kind of put that to bed. There's not really too much that I think we can argue anymore. Now, he's still not getting the volume, 4 receptions, but you'll take 4 for 112, especially if he gets into the end zone. He didn't today, though. Diami Brown is the one who got into the end zone. And then outside of that, nothing else really of major note. Eckler's still leading the way in the receiving game. I think he's a safer flex play than some people really want him to be at this point. I think he's been better than I've expected this year going into the season. Anthony says Commanders win the NFC East, I believe. I think they can. And if they do, this is we're looking at CJ Stroud, Houston Texans part 2. The bad team gets the rookie quarterback, makes the playoff, and then the hype gets crazy. I think we've already kind of started to see that. He also says the Watson experiment is over, time for Winston. And Jay says, yeah, in my opinion, Winston should have been in since week 2. Well, let's talk about it, because Deshaun Watson in this one goes 15 for 28, 125 and a touchdown. You're going to see the clip on the internet of him walking away and on the 4th down. They had too many guys on the field, yada, yada, yada. This has been a dumpster fire. I'll be honest. I hate to sound like a hater, but when Cleveland did this in a long time ago, right? They kicked Baker Mayfield out of town. Baker Mayfield takes him to the playoffs for the first time in forever. They move him. They go get Deshaun Watson in this controversial move. They pay him the most guaranteed money of all time at that time. This is karma, bro. Karma comes back, and it's a bitch. I'll tell you that. You deserve this, Cleveland. I'm sorry. Maybe Cleveland fans don't deserve this, but your organization deserves this because they all were some scumbags. And look, I think at the end of the day, this move is going to get Andrew Berry fired. This move is going to get Kevin Stefanski fired. This move is going to get Deshaun Watson benched, cut, whatever. Cleveland, you could have had Baker Mayfield. He looks damn good right now, too. You could have had Baker Mayfield, but you wanted to get cute. You wanted to try and do this. And, unfortunately, you guys are going to be rebuilding and maybe trying to draft guys like Shedeur Sanders and maybe trying to draft guys like Arch Manning and whatever. They don't want to come play for you. Nobody wants to come play for you. I'm sorry, Cleveland. But that said, let's talk about the rushing attack. Disappointing day for Jerome Ford, in my opinion. I thought he was going to have a better day against this Commanders defense. 9 for 47. Donta Foreman goes 9 for 44. Too much Foreman for my liking, but Nick Chubb's on the way as well, so maybe we should be trading away Jerome Ford at this moment. Amari Cooper, 4 for 60. 10 targets still, but these targets are just uncatchable. I don't know. Jordan Akins, 3 for 22, a touchdown. Nobody else really gets anything. Welcome back, David Njoku. Here's 1 for 14. Tough day from Cleveland. Sorry. Anthony says, whoa, tell us how you really feel. Turns down speaker volume. Oh, am I being, is the volume too loud, or is it just the cursing? My bad. There you go. Jake says, but the problem is Cleveland is a dumpster fire from the top down, but I digress. Yeah, man, it is what it is. Other than Burrow, Chase, what's current best QB wide receiver stack in the league? It may not make a lot of people happy with this answer at the moment because he hasn't been on the football field, but I still think Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown is probably the second best in the league. Maybe it's Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb. Yeah, these are the kind of guys that I'm thinking about. If Stefanski wants to come back to Minnesota and help call plays with KLC again, nah. Good riddance. See you later, Stefanski. Let's move on to the next one. Next, we talked about that game far too long. Colts, Jaguars. This one looked like it was going to be a bad one, too. Oh, yeah, Josiah. He says CJ and Nico. That's a good one, too. I didn't think about that one off the top of my head, but that one's probably up there. In this game, Indianapolis, they start to have a comeback, man. 34-37. They lose to Jacksonville. Jacksonville gets their first win on the year, but Indianapolis scores 24 points in the fourth quarter. They made this one very close. Joe Flacco, I put in the group chat that the magic was gone, and then the magic showed up as soon as I said that, which is obviously very much on brand for Joe Flacco. But here in this one, let's talk about Jacksonville first. Jacksonville, Trevor Lawrence goes 28 for 34. Actually a very solid day for Trevor Lawrence, despite what everybody is going to tell you. 371 yards, 2 touchdowns, and interception. This team is just not, they don't have a good defense. The offensive play calling is pretty mediocre. Like, Indianapolis isn't the toughest of matchups either, but I really do believe, and I don't want to sound like a Trevor Lawrence apologist, but I really do believe that the issues here are not entirely Trevor Lawrence. People want to point that as Trevor Lawrence is the problem. I think you got a Doug Peterson problem. I think you got a defensive problem. I think you got a lot of issues that are just not Trevor Lawrence. Obviously, he hasn't played, up to the expectation, but when he's going 28 for 34 for 371 and 2, and the game is 37-34, look, something else is going on that's not Trevor Lawrence's issue. And here we go. Anthony says Bigsby RB1, and that is going to be the conversation that a lot of people are having, because Tank Bigsby, he goes out there, 13 carries, 101 yards, 2 touchdowns, to Travis Etienne, 6 for 17. Woof. Not good. I put something out on X last night where I went back and I found my own receipt and quote tweeted my own receipt about Travis Etienne being a value in fantasy drafts. He ain't looking like a value these days. I'm just being honest. But he did enough in the air, though, that he salvaged a day for the most part. 6 receptions for 43 yards. Christian Kirk goes 4 for 88. And BTJ, a.k.a. him, 5 for 122 and 1 touchdown on 8 targets. Brian Thomas Jr. looks like the real deal, man. He looks like the real deal, and somebody that was undervalued in rookie drafts, was undervalued in fantasy drafts, and I think he's a guy that it's going to be hard for me. If I was thinking about like rest of season rankings at the wide receiver position, it's hard for me to not have him as a top 20, top 25 type of wide receiver on the rest of the year. So Brian Thomas Jr. definitely somebody that I am interested in. Evan Engram not back on the field in this one, but maybe back next week. That said, let's talk about Indianapolis. Joe Flacco goes 33 for 44, 3 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. Hopefully you played him or streamed him in fantasy football. Spacenfeld says BTJ is he. Anthony says deletes hot take line item about ETN from XLS file. Okay, so is that how this works? If I admit I'm wrong on the internet, or I admit I'm wrong, then you delete it from the file. I like that. You know what? But Adonai Mitchell, he throws 1 pass for 24 yards, whatever. Let's talk about the rushing, because you could also stream Trey Sermon this week, and if you did, he went 10 for 38 and a touchdown. He also had 6 receptions for 25 yards there as well. So Trey Sermon came through as a streaming option. Tyler Goodson, maybe if you streamed him too, he still came through as a streaming option. He just didn't get the touchdown, so maybe not as good of an option, but he was a deep play. Other than that, Joe Flacco, he had a 21-yard rush, 3 for 22, so the other 2 rushes went for 1 yard combined. I don't know, man. We knew that when Joe Flacco was under center, you could rely on a lot of these pass-catching options here in Indianapolis. Alec Pierce, 3 for 134 and a touchdown. Josh Downs, 9 for 69. Michael Pittman, 5 for 37 and a touchdown. Mo Alley Cox, 2 for 37 and a touchdown. Everybody got involved, except maybe Adonai Mitchell. But everybody got involved, and it was a decent day here for fantasy football purposes. So, look, I think it's going to be Anthony Richardson next week. We're going to have to temper the expectations on these receiving options moving forward. I will say, if you have the opportunity here, maybe your league mates aren't paying attention, and they think Pittman's back. They think Josh Downs is him. I would probably be moving. I would probably be selling and trying to get a different player in a different offense, because I don't believe this offense looks like this with Anthony Richardson under center. And Spacenfeld says, does Flacco take over for AR, or do they play AR when he's healthy? They play AR when he's healthy. That's just what they're going to do. He's their franchise quarterback at the moment. Look, I don't even want to hate on AR, but he hasn't been the passer to help elevate these receiving options, so I'm moving these guys if I can, moving forward, especially in Dynasty. If you play in a Dynasty league and you're looking to get rid of Pittman and Downs, I might be trying to do it right now, because A-Rich is going to be the starter for at least another year, maybe 2 years, if he doesn't develop. It can't be, I don't know, maybe I'm trying to think too far down the line, but I'd be trying to get out if I have any hope of getting out at the moment. Let's move on to the next game, though. The next game we're going to talk about is going to be the Bills and the Texans. This is a good game, too. Very, very odd ending. Very odd ending. But here you are. Buffalo goes and loses this one 20-23, and I say they lose this one because they literally lost the game for themselves here at the end of the game. To finish the game, they could have sent this game into overtime, and all they had to do was kneel the ball, run the ball, whatever you want to do, just get the clock to hit 0-0. And they're throwing deep ball after deep ball after deep ball to end the game, giving Houston an opportunity to receive a punt, get it into field goal range. Kaimi Fairbairn, good night. Very odd play calling. What's his name? Doug McDermott. Not Doug McDermott. I always do that. Sean McDermott. Doug McDermott's a basketball player. Sean McDermott goes out there and says, this is my fault. Bad play call. Blah, 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 blah. Y'all lost the game because of that. Y'all could have won. You'll also see the meme on the internet of Stephon Diggs side-eyeing Josh Allen. Revenge game there. Anthony says Downs a 2025 second. If you're in a potential, not sure if you're contending or not, and you can get an early 25 second, I might do it. And then get liquid, and then you can move that 25 second for another player down the line or something like that. So let's talk about Houston, because they won the game. CJ Stroud goes 28 for 38, 331 yards, a touchdown, an interception. The only touchdown was a long bomb to Nico Collins, where you got the celebration from Stroud, and then Nico Collins continues running down the tunnel to finish his day because he re-aggravated a hamstring injury. So that was the last of Nico Collins that we saw, but at least it was a 67, right? Let me look at that. 67-yard touchdown that he caught there for a touchdown. So whatever. I guess if you have Nico Collins, we could have had a bigger day in store, but he still gave us some fantasy points before he left, so I guess I can't be too upset about it. Cam Akers showed up, 9 for 42 and a touchdown, got into the end zone. Dare Ogunbowale gets 15 carries, though, for 30 yards. Damn, this team needs Joe Mixon back. That's just, what we need to see. We need to see Joe Mixon back in this offense. Stephon Diggs, revenge game, leads the way, 6 for 82, no touchdown. He probably would have loved to get into the end zone. Other than that, Tank Dell 4 for 38, Schultz 4 for 34, Ogunbowale 6 for 57, but nobody else gets into the end zone. So not the best of days from either of these offenses, but turned out being an interesting game in the end nonetheless. Now, Buffalo passing the football, Josh Allen goes 9 for 30 for 131 and a touchdown. That was horrible, a horrible outing from Josh Allen. Now, he was without Khalil Shakir in this game, and we didn't, Khalil Shakir has been the default number one in this offense for a while. I don't know if that is necessarily why this has happened, but it looked like Josh Allen was not able to get this short yardage dump off type of plays without Shakir in the lineup, and he didn't really get any help from anybody else. Like James Cook goes 20 for 82 and a touchdown. Obviously that was fine. That's everything you needed out of Cook. But in the receiving game, Keon Coleman goes 1 for 49 and a touchdown, and I think he stepped out of bounds on that touchdown run, but they said he didn't. I think he did. It was his only catch. It went for 49 and a touchdown down the sideline. Kincaid, he goes 2 for 34. You need to see that go up. Hollins, 2 for 27. James Cook, 2 for 17. I mean, Curtis Samuel, this was your opportunity, buddy, to step up, and he goes 1 for 0. MVS, 0 for 0 on his 3 targets. Like, this was just a bad offense, and at the end of the game here, Josh Allen goes down, hits his head on the turf, clearly, to me, watching the broadcast, very clearly knocked out. Lights out, see ya, concussion, clearly. He goes to the blue tent. They said it was a chest injury, and they checked him for a concussion just in case, and he said he didn't have a concussion. They might have threw him some smelling salts and said, get your ass back in the game, son. Look, he was knocked out. It was a concussion. It's not great, to see that happen. That's what happened. Josh says, or Spacenfeld says, Josh Allen was absolutely knocked unconscious after hitting his head on the turf. Concussion protocol failed. Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm just saying, he is not concussed. He never got concussed. I saw him go knocked out. I saw it lights out. Bro was not moving for 2 seconds. Like, it was lights out. So, anyways, that's that game, folks. Let's move on to the next one here. We do have the Raiders and the Broncos. The Broncos end up winning this one. 3-2 is the record for them. 2-3 is the record for the Raiders. 18-34 is the final score with Denver on top. Passing, Bo Nix goes 19 for 27, 206 yards, 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, was sacked 3 times, and there's going to be a clip on your Twitter feeds, on your Instagrams, of Sean Payton and Bo Nix getting into a little bit of an argument. Who cares? It don't matter. They win the game, so that's all you can ask for. You want to see that if you are a fan of the Broncos, if you are rooting for Bo Nix. I think today was a decent day for Bo overall. Javonte Williams, 13 for 61. Jaleel McLaughlin, 6 for 22. Marvin Mims even gets in on the action on the ground. And Bo Nix continues to rush. He went 8 for 9 and a rushing touchdown. So he gets in on the ground as well. So 3 touchdowns for his day. Receiving-wise, Javonte Williams leads the way here, 5 for 50. That's great if you have Javonte. We've wanted to see him get a little bit more involved in the receiving game, and he did. Lil Jordan Humphrey goes 2 for 48. Cortland Sutton, 2 for 32. Troy Franklin, 1 for 20. And he dropped a touchdown in this one as well, a long touchdown. You hate to see that if you're a Troy Franklin truther like I am. That said, though, let's talk about Las Vegas. Gardner Minshew, 12 for 17, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. They bring in Aiden O'Connell in this one, 10 for 20, 0 touchdowns, 1 interceptions. They're not committing to a starting quarterback moving forward, meaning last time they said this, they went right back to Gardner Minshew. Aiden O'Connell just hasn't looked good when he's got opportunities. Gardner Minshew hasn't looked good. Devontae Adams is going to be out the door by the end of the week, in my opinion. And this is just not great overall here in Las Vegas. I think they literally will be. There was a video with Mark Davis. I think that's his name, right? Mark Davis is the owner of the Raiders. And he was talking to Shedeur Sanders, and he said, you could be home right now. Who knows? You could be home. So maybe Shedeur is they're already looking at quarterback of the future. Swifty Fantasy says, who are you targeting to move off Pittman and Downs? I mean, it depends on what format, what type of league, all of those things. Like, it's going to depend. But overall, I mean, if you can get anybody even in the same range at the wide receiver position and just go into a different offense, like, I'm fine with that. I mean, if we're talking dynasty fantasy football purposes, there's, like, I would try and move off of, I wouldn't mind moving off of Pittman for a guy like, if you can get T. Higgins, maybe not after the big game, I would do it. If you can get a guy like Terry McLaurin, maybe trying to move him for like a JSN if you can, like things like that, like just trying to move over, and that might be high. But I'd be working my way down that list and just trying to get another wide receiver in a better offense. Now, Jake says, so hot take, Antonio Pierce one and done in Vegas. Probably, I'll be honest with you too. I don't think he should have been hired in the first place. I don't think whenever you hire that interim head coach, it ever works. And he's a motivator, a locker room guy. He knows how to get the guys fired up. He's not a good football coach. Not a good head coach. Let me say that. He's a good linebacker coach, defensive coach, whatever. He's not a good head coach. They should have took interviews last year with Ben Johnson and Bobby Slowick and some of these other guys. They didn't even hold interviews. But yeah, I don't necessarily know if he's the guy moving forward. And if they stick with him, shit, dude, I don't feel good for that rookie quarterback because it ain't gonna be great. But rushing, Alexander Mattison, he gets the start and the majority of the work with Zamir White out. But Amir Abdullah leads the way, 5 for 42 and a touchdown, 140-yard long run, so we don't really worry too much about that one. And then receiving-wise, welcome, Brock Bowers to the return to the top of the tight end position. He goes 8 for 97 and 1 touchdown on 12 targets. This is what you expect when you drafted Brock Bowers in Dynasty. Jacoby Myers, 6 for 72. Madison, 2 for 23. And everybody else very minimally involved. That said, really the only guys that we were super pleased with fantasy football-wise, like if you streamed Bo Nix, you probably are all right. If you played Brock Bowers, you like that one. You probably like Jacoby Myers. You probably like what you got out of Javonte. And that's about it, man. But these are teams and offenses that are pretty bad. I think Denver's looked better in the last couple of games. So they look to be trending up. Las Vegas looks to be trending down. And it looks like Las Vegas could definitely be playing for a top 10 pick here this year. But I think that was expected by most people. I can't imagine many people really felt like Las Vegas was some type of contending team. But let's move on to the Cardinals and the Niners. This was a really good game. Cardinals win this one somehow after scoring 14 unanswered points in the second half. They get a 24-23 win over the San Francisco 49ers, and Jordan Mason might have lost them this game with the fumble there that he had at the end of the game. Let's talk about Arizona, though. Kyler Murray goes 19 for 30, 195, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. He also had 7 carries for 83 yards and 1 touchdown on a 50-yard run to start the game, and he literally pointed at the end zone or peace signed or one of these two. He did something like this and took off. There was linebackers and safeties and everybody all around him, and he said, I'm out of here. And he went all the way to the end zone. It was pretty cool to see. Now, James Conner also had 19 carries for 86 yards. No touchdown for James Conner. There was a touchdown opportunity for Conner in this one. We made him at the start of the week. If he gets in the end zone, we definitely feel comfortable with that. Probably not what we wanted to see out of Conner, though, in this one. Michael Wilson, 5 for 78, no touchdown. McBride, 6 for 53, no touchdown. Marvin Harrison, 2 for 36, no touchdown. You know who the touchdown went to? Elijah Higgins on his 1 catch for 2 yards. So really, everybody receiving, I think, for Arizona, other than maybe if you streamed Michael Wilson, he exceeded the expectation. McBride gave you, I guess, enough at the tight end position where if a tight end gives you anything these days, we're okay with them, whatever. And then Marvin Harrison, 2 for 36. We don't want to see that anymore, man. Like, it's been so inconsistent for Marvin Harrison, and I think this passing offense in Arizona has been pretty inconsistent as well. So, look, he's still a stud, but 2 for 7 for 36 yards. I don't want to see that, man. Swifty says, I did not expect Bowers to be so nice. Yeah, Bros is nice as hell. Jake says, also question in regards to tight end. I have Bowers and Hawkinson as my tight ends in one league. Once fully healthy, should I start Hawk or keep rolling with Bowers? I would say you probably roll with Bowers until he gives you a reason not to, or until Hawkinson gives you a reason to start him. So, until we see it, flip production-wise, I would probably just keep rolling with Bowers, especially early on when he's still kind of getting back into the game speed. Now, looking at San Francisco, Brock Purdy goes 19 for 35. He didn't play good football. Like, I feel like that this team They could really use a guy like Christian McCaffrey in this offense at the moment. He would really help elevate this, obviously. But Mason, he goes 14 for 89. No touchdown here. Purdy goes 4 for 33. Isaac Grendo getting mixed in, 5 for 22. Deebo Samuel, 3 for 9. If you have been around the channel for the last couple of weeks, you know I've been preaching that let's not panic on Brandon Ayuk. He missed the offseason program. This offense in general is very up and down. You know, sometimes Kittle has the big day. Sometimes Deebo has the big day. Hell, Jawan Jennings had a big day. Well, it was Brandon Ayuk's big day, 8 for 147. No touchdown in this one, but he still went 8 for 147. So if you were worried about Brandon Ayuk, I wouldn't be. George Kittle goes 8 for 64 and a touchdown on 12 targets. And then Deebo Samuel, stinker alert, 1 for 11. Horrible day from Deebo Samuel. Not what we wanted to see. He cost us in a DFS lineup. But we did have Brandon Ayuk in a lineup, so he helped us. So not too bad overall. But this team definitely could use Christian McCaffrey back. Jordan Mason sounds like he's going to be the starter again next week. And then after that, probably once we get to like week 7, week 8, week 9, this is when we're kind of looking at CMC to be back in the lineup, at least is what I'm hearing. But it's still very wide open. Like, they're talking about, like, potentially week 7 to 10. Like, could be anywhere in there. And that's, like, a whole damn month. So, like, as long as you have Jordan Mason, keep playing him. If you can, I will say, I'm getting to the point now. I have Jordan Mason on a redraft roster. And I'm getting to the point where if I can move Jordan Mason for something decent that has long rest of season value, I might do it. If I can't get anything crazy, like, I'm cool just rolling Mason out for 4 more weeks, 3 more weeks, 2 more weeks, and getting that, you know, running back one type of numbers that he does give us from time to time. So, guys that I was trying to explore for, obviously before this big week that happened for Brian Thomas, I was trying to buy Brian Thomas. Guys like JSN, if I could move Mason for JSN, maybe somebody needs a running back for the week on a bye. They want to plug in Jordan Mason. Maybe you can go to the CMC manager and say, look, lock down the backfield and give me a guy like, I don't know, what's a wide receiver that had a bad week this week? You can't get Deebo, but you know what I'm saying. Go buy a guy who had a bad week and see what you can make happen. Maybe a guy like Terry McLaurin, just something like that. So that's probably what I'm doing, but let's move on to the next game here. Our next game is the Packers and the Rams, and Josiah was in here saying, go Pack, go, but this one got sketchy. And Jordan Love didn't look great, to be honest. 15 for 26, 224, 2 touchdowns and interception. He had a boneheaded interception where he was trying to avoid the sack in the safety. He's trying to avoid the safety and take that sack, and he threw it away, and he ended up throwing a pick 6. It was awful. But overall, you know, fine day for Green Bay. They still come away with a win. Jacobs goes 19 for 73 and 1 touchdown. You love to see that one. Jaden Reed involved as well. We had Jaden Reed very high in our rankings this week. He didn't score, so that kind of made it to where, you know, the day didn't feel great. He goes 4 for 78 still, but Tucker Kraft, he goes 4 for 88 and 2 touchdowns. And Kraft right now, you know, he looks like a guy that you can plug in as a startable tight end every week moving forward, especially as long as Musgrave is out. He's just getting the work. I think he's overtaken that job as tight end 1 in this offense entirely. And dynasty-wise, he's definitely a guy that I would much rather have than Musgrave as well. Like, if you can still buy low on Kraft, I would be willing to give, you know, a solid draft pick, I'd say a late second, and still be willing to go get a guy like Tucker Kraft on my team if you really need the tight end help. But Wicks, Dontavion Wicks, my guy, the whole community, the whole fantasy football community decided that you were going to be good for us and that you were going to be a great stream, pick up and play, and 2 for 20. Not good. Not good. Bo Melton, I streamed you in a league. 1 for 12. Not good. Whatever. Really nobody outside of Tucker Kraft and Jaden Reed actually showed up. Anthony says that sketchy. Registered as a C minor, 2-octave note. Well done. You love to see it, dude. Swifty says, what are you selling Mason for Dynasty? Look, I probably would have been selling him earlier in Dynasty formats, But he's a guy that if you can get any second, I'm out for any second, period. Like, if I can just get any second, I'm good. Spacenfeld said UFFDA Wicks. Let me just, you guys, a lot of you guys in the chat right now, you guys have been, loyal supporters for a while now. You remember this offseason when everybody was giving shit about Wicks, and they were talking about Dontavion Wicks is the best wide receiver in Green Bay, and Jaden Reed is a gadget guy, and Jaden Reed ain't that good, and Jaden blah, blah, blah. Jaden Reed was pretty damn good, and I think there was somebody here who told you guys that Jaden Reed was a true number one for this team, and so far through the year, it's looking like that. I'm just saying. You can go look at pull the receipt, Anthony. Now, Los Angeles passing, I do think we need to talk about Matthew Stafford. He goes 29 for 45, 260, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Still, we haven't got the big Stafford days, and I think this is because Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua have not been on the lineup. I see we got a thumbs down too. I guess the Jaden Reed shit talk offended somebody. Rushing wise, Kyron Williams 22 for 102 and 1 touchdown. Blake Corum 5 for 25, Tutu Atwell 1 for 7. Kyron Williams big day. Blake Corum, they tried to get him into the end zone twice. He didn't get in. And overall, Kyron Williams is going to still keep balling while these guys are out. That's just the way it's going to go. We expected Jordan Whittington to have a decent day. He went 7 for 89. He left in this one for a partial amount of time. Didn't score the touchdown. Tutu goes 6 for 58. Colby Parkinson 7 for 52. And D-Rob is the one who finds the end zone. So there you are, man. That is kind of the way that this team performed this week. It felt like they had a chance to come back and win this one, but no magic for Sean McVay, and the Rams fall to 1-4. Green Bay 3-2. Now, Anthony says, I believe Reed is the Green Bay wide receiver 1, not a hot take. Facts. Yeah, I mean, it was a hot take in the offseason. A lot of people really faded and hated on Jaden Reed for some reason. I don't know why. Because my eyes told me he was the best in the room, but I guess sometimes we want to rely on analytics as well, which I don't mind, but also you know what I'm saying. New York Giants in this one, they upset the Seattle Seahawks 29-20. Both the Seahawks are now 3-2. They've dropped their last 2, and the Giants are now 2-3, and they win this one without Malik Neighbors. So I do think, Daniel Jones 23 for 34, 257, and 2 touchdowns. Are we potentially looking at Daniel Jones playing himself into another year as the starting quarterback for the Giants? Is this possible? Potentially. I would hate to see it, but he could potentially be doing that. Tyrone Tracy Jr. leads the way rushing, 18 for 129. He also went 1 for 1 in the air. Nothing crazy, but Tyrone Tracy Jr., man, a very sneaky, deep cut type of running back play that we talked about drafting in the late round of your rookie drafts this offseason in Dynasty. That's the type of flash that you want to see out of him. Devin Singletary is going to be back, and Devin Singletary will be the starting running back in this backfield, but that type of performance, at least to me, tells me that Tyrone Tracy is going to earn some more reps moving forward. He definitely is. The Eric Gray conversation versus Tyrone Tracy should be dead at this point. Tyrone Tracy is definitely the second most talented back at minimum in this backfield. So you love to see that. Wan'Dale Robinson, we thought it was going to be a big day for him. He actually salvaged a day with a touchdown, but 6 for 36. I guess that's just the Wan'Dale way. And Darius Slayton actually is the guy who has the big day, 8 for 122 and a touchdown on 11 targets. But overall, the Giants, they go out there, no Neighbors, no problem. They still beat the Seahawks. Geno Smith goes 28 for 40, 284 and a touchdown. No interceptions, but not a great day throwing the football. And rushing wise, Kenneth Walker, he followed up his huge game against the Detroit Lions with a stat line of 5 carries for 19 yards. Ouch. Seattle receiving, Tyler Lockett goes 4 for 75. Kenneth Walker goes 7 for 57, so that saved the day for Walker in a PPR league. And Spacerfeld says PPR scam, Wan'Dale. Damn straight. DK Metcalf 4 for 55. JSN finds the end zone. Overall, just spread the football around to a lot of different guys, but nobody really has a huge day. And overall, that's what caused them to lose the game. It wasn't great all around. Let's couple of these comments real quick. Spacenfeld says, little worried about Reed's target share, been super efficient with his touches. Yeah, I mean, we're going into year 2 now of him continuing to be super efficient with his touches. And I think, there's been guys for years who have been super efficient with touches like Brandon Ayuk. He hasn't had a massive target share the majority of his career, but he still produces. I think Reed just might be one of those guys. And Anthony says, Danny Dimes is playing well, underrated plug QB play. Neighbors and Wandell is a good wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2 combo, and an improved O-line. Yeah, man. I mean, it's going to be interesting. I think, maybe New York has something here with Daniel, but I feel like if they really want to elevate, you get the rookie quarterback going into next year. Maybe you get another running back on the roster in a good running back class in like day 2. You keep just building this thing out. Obviously, keep improving the defense. The defense has been okay, but I don't know. It looks like that might be the way to do it. But again, I digress. By the way, we just got news that the Bengals are fearing a torn ACL for Dax Hill. So it looks like Dax Hill, the cornerback for the Bengals, has probably torn his ACL. And some good news from Ian Rappaport is that Will Levis, after his AC joint injury, sounds like that there are no issues and he's got a good chance of playing on Sunday. So it sounds like he's going to play. So no Mason Rudolph there. Let's move on to the next game here. I think we only have 1 or 2 left. 1 left. And let me just disclose this one right now before we hop into it. We had the rain delay twice or something like that. This game didn't start till late. I'm on the East Coast. I'd been up early, since way early, trying to prep for the day, do the stream, whatever, and then watch the London game. I didn't finish this game. I went to sleep. So I didn't watch the whole game, so I can't speak upon, the entirety of the game. I caught back up on the highlights. Looked like I missed a good one because there was a last-second touchdown from Dak Prescott, but I just want to get that disclaimer out the way. East Coaster said, peace out. I went to bed. But let's talk about the game anyways, because the Cowboys win this one. 3-2 now is the record, 20-17. Pittsburgh now falls to 3-2 as well. Let's talk about Dallas. Dak goes 29 for 42, 352, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Dowdle, he has taken over the backfield. He has finally taken over the backfield. He goes 20 carries for 87 yards. Still not super efficient with them, but he's definitely the best runner that they have here in this offense. Receiving-wise, Jalen Tolbert leads the way. He looks like a priority pickup. Not a priority pickup, but he looks like a guy that we should be prioritizing on the waiver wire moving forward, especially because Brandon Cooks is now on IR. He goes 7 for 87 in the touchdown. The touchdown was the game-winning touchdown. Ferguson continues to look good, 6 for 70. CeeDee Lamb, 5 for 62. Not a big day from CeeDee, but overall, that's kind of how the team performed. Rico Dowdle also got in receiving, 2 for 27 and a touchdown there as well. Yo Bro says, yo, League FFB GOAT. Appreciate you, Yo Bro. He said my fault on the glaze. It's all good, man. It's all good. I appreciate it. But Pittsburgh, Justin Fields, he goes 15 for 27, 131 and 2 touchdowns. Protected the football, at least receiving there. He did have a fumble, but he didn't lose it. They recovered it. So for the most part, doing a good job. Freiermuth did fumble and lose that one towards the end of the game there. I want to say not great from him. But Najee Harris, 14 for 42. Justin Fields, 6 for 27. Overall, not a lot of rushing there. This just wasn't a great offensive game from Pittsburgh. Really didn't get it rolling till the second half. Really, neither of these teams got it rolling to the second half, and I think that's partially why I was like, I'm going to sleep. But they picked it up in the second half. Najee Harris leads the way receiving, which was horrible to see, Najee be the leading receiver on 2 receptions for 35 yards. But Freiermuth, he gets the touchdown, 3 for 22. Connor Hayward gets a touchdown, 2 for 23. George Pickens, stinker of a day, 3 for 26 on that one. No touchdowns with a long of 21. So that means his other 2 receptions went for a combined 5 yards. Just not a great day, man. Not a great day from the Pittsburgh Steelers. I don't believe that Pittsburgh will potentially be looking at Russell Wilson, but dropping this one and now going to 3-2, you're 1-1 at home. Like I still think it's Justin Fields' offense, But they drop another game or two and Russell Wilson's still sitting there, they might just look his way. And this is the risk with a guy like Justin Fields. But it's too early to tell right now, but I think that it could at least be on their minds. He's been playing fine. They haven't elevated this into the next gear. Like they need to score more, than 16, 17 points every week to win football games. And you got to throw for more than 120 yards, 150 yards every week to win football games, especially when your ground game is going 14 for 42. Like you're just not doing a lot. So it ain't great. But Anthony says Arthur Smith, I tell you, it just may be. Marcus says, what do I do if I have ETN and Bigsby in redraft? If you have both of them, if you have both of them, I'm not too worried about them. I will say, maybe try and sell the guy that is more valuable to your league. If people are viewing Bigsby as RB1, sell him, get a different running back. If people are selling his ETN as a running back 1, sell him and get a different running back. Or I've heard some potential ETN trade rumors. Maybe you wait a couple weeks and see if ETN does get moved, because if ETN gets traded, maybe now you have 2 running backs that are starting for their teams. So I think right now we're not doing too much reaction-wise with those guys. But, folks, that is it. That is the last game. I will say we have a Monday night game tonight of the New Orleans Saints and the Kansas City Chiefs. We'll see what happens in that one. But overall, that is this week's recap. If you did enjoy the show, if you did enjoy hanging out with me in general, hit that like button for me. If you disliked it, I guess, go hit the dislike button too. Somebody already did. Also, make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you comment. Make sure you do all that good stuff that helps us grow. I appreciate you guys hanging out with me. It really does mean a lot. That type of stuff does actually help us out. So it's a small little gesture from you. And if you guys are looking for the waiver wire pickups of the week, as always, those will be out tomorrow morning at about 11 a.m. Eastern. I'm about to dive deep into it right now, see what guys I like, see which guys I dislike, and make that video for you guys. So make sure you tap in, make sure you're subscribed, make sure you see that waiver video tomorrow. And with all of that being said, I have nothing else for you guys today. So I'll see you on our next one. Till then, peace out.